move. If you flinch, it stains. If you stay, I save it.
Decide, Mr. Ryu.
Don't move. If you flinch, it stains. If you stay, I save it. Decide, Mr. Ryu. They called him Ryu Hyun-soo, though few were foolish enough to speak his name above a whisper. In Seoul's velvet dark underbelly, he was the hand that closed doors, the stillness before the storm broke, the man who could dismantle a life with a phone call and never raise his voice doing it. At 34, he'd carved an empire from shadows and surgical precision, his tailored coats concealing a past he'd buried beneath money and silence. Business owners paid tribute. Rivals vanished. The police looked the other way because looking at him too long had consequences. He was feared, untouchable, and profoundly alone in the way only men who trust no one can be. Nothing rattled him anymore. Nothing breached the armor until a black waitress spilled scalding Americano down the front of his cashmere coat and told him to hold still. It happened at Hana, the cafe in Hongdae he'd purchased as a front but rarely visited. A place that smelled like dark chocolate and lemon oil, all bright subway tiles and low, lazy jazz. He'd come for a quiet inspection, his presence turning the morning rush into a minefield of nerves. Welcome back, besties. This is Afro-Korean HQ, where danger meets dessert and love rewrites the rules. Drop don't move in the comments if you'd have said it too. The cafe hummed with barely controlled chaos. Rain had chased half the district inside, every table full, every order shouted over the hiss of steam wands and the relentless chime of the door. Amara Okoye worked the floor like a conductor, tray balanced on one hand, her smile quick and easy, her internal clock running 3 steps ahead of disaster. She wore her hair in a high puff, her apron splattered with foam art and coffee grounds, and a small burn scar on her wrist from a careless pour 2 weeks back. She pivoted around a stroller, sidestepped a backpack, and collided with a wall that turned out to be a rebuff. Man in a coat worth more than her rent. The collision was catastrophic. The Americano arced in slow motion, a perfect wave of scalding brown crashing over pale cashmere, silk lining, and the kind of tailoring you only saw in magazines. It sluiced down his chest, his shoulder, and dripped onto Italian leather shoes. Cups clattered. Someone gasped. The entire cafe inhaled and forgot to breathe out. He didn't flinch. He didn't curse. He looked down at the spreading stain, then up at her with eyes like black glass. Behind him, 2 men moved with elegant speed, hands slipping inside jackets, but Ryu's palm rose without sound. They froze mid-reach. Amara's brain went static. Then clarity snapped in like a lens focusing. 3 seconds before the oil set. Italian wool. Silk lining. This man, no one said his name out loud, but the city whispered it in the dark. Ryu Hyun-soo, the myth who owned the night and walked through the day like smoke. The cafe held its breath. Don't move, Amara said, her voice steady as a drumbeat. If you flinch, it stains. If you stay, I save it. Decide, Mr. Ryu. The whole room froze because she'd named him. His head tilted, faintly curious. Proceed. She was already moving. Club soda from behind the bar, clean microfiber cloth, ice wrapped in linen. She pressed, didn't rub, working in light, precise circles, lifting heat from the weave while murmuring instructions like a medic coaching a patient. Cold pulls the tannins, heat sets them. Whoever told you to scrub spills lied. Breathe slow. One of his guards growled low. Amara didn't look up. You growl at me. I miss a spot. A ghost of a sound escaped Ryu's throat. Not quite a laugh. He watched her with the stillness of a predator studying something unexpected. When she finished, the stain was a pale memory, nearly invisible unless you knew where to look. His gaze dropped to her hands, dark knuckles, the thin white scar, a tiny tattoo of a coffee plant on her wrist. I'm sorry, Amara said finally, because she was. I'll cover dry cleaning, or next month's tips, or, she exhaled, or you can have me fired, but you won't scare me, not in my house. Silence stretched like pulled taffy. Then, impossibly, his mouth curved. Noted. He lifted the replacement cup she didn't remember pouring and took a slow, assessing sip. Your extraction runs hot. You're losing sweetness in the top notes. Drop your water temp 2 degrees, tighten the grind, try again. It was absurd, infuriating, and entirely, maddeningly correct. She had been rushing, compensating with heat. She blinked, nodded despite herself. Yes, sir. He walked out into the rain with a coat that looked untouched, and the cafe exhaled like surfacing from deep water. Mina, the head barista, grabbed Amara's elbow. "Are you insane?" "Apparently," Amara said, her pulse finally catching up to the moment. Safe, or doomed. She couldn't tell which. But through the rain-streaked glass, Ryu paused, glanced back with something that might have been amusement, and disappeared into the gray morning. And Amara knew with the certainty of espresso blooming in hot water that he'd be back. He came back on Tuesday, then Thursday, then in the thin hour between lunch lull and after-work surge, when the cafe breathed, and the light through the window turned everything soft, he came alone, sat at the same corner table where the rain used to collect on the glass, ordered simple drinks pour-overs, single-origin Ethiopians, the occasional cortado, and delivered feedback no one asked for and everyone improved from. "You're choking the tamp," he said one Thursday, voice low enough that only Amara heard. "Ease up, trust the puck." She adjusted without arguing, pulled the shot again. The crema bloomed golden, perfectly tight. She slid the cup across the counter. "Better?" He tasted it like a jeweler examining a stone. "Better." "You've got a palate," Amara said, half teasing, half testing. "Or you just like watching me redo shots." "My mother ran a tea house in Busan," he said. No hesitation, no wall. "I learned what precision tastes like before I learned to read." There was something quiet at the edge of that sentence, something soft beneath the armor. Amara filed it in the place she kept things people didn't mean to give away. The visits became a rhythm. Ryu's presence stopped feeling like a storm and started feeling like punctuation, a comma in the chaos, a breath between beats. Mina stopped whispering warnings. The regulars stopped staring. He became part of the architecture. Daniel didn't. Her boyfriend DJ, sleeper couch philosopher, chronic borrower, started coming home later. Then not at all. Excuses piled up like dirty dishes. Amara ignored them until she couldn't. The live stream appeared on a Friday, shared then deleted, screen recorded and shared again. Daniel in neon light, hands on someone who wasn't her, laughing the way he used to laugh when they were new. She watched it once, deleted it, sent a single text. "We're done. Leave my things at the door." No tears, no scene, just the clean cut of a line she should have drawn months ago. Ryu came in that night and found her steaming milk like it owed her money, jaw tight, hands a little too precise. He waited until she set the pitcher down. "What broke?" he asked, voice bare of pity. "An illusion," she said without looking up. "Keep your voice down. Tips don't like drama." "Do you have somewhere to go?" She almost laughed. "My pride, and a luggage locker at Seoul Station until I figure it out." He was quiet for a long moment, the kind of quiet that had weight. Then he reached into his coat and placed a slim white envelope on the counter, a single key resting on top like punctuation. "There's an apartment above the bookshop on Daehak Row, furnished, temporary, no strings. If anyone asks, you're subletting from a friend." Amara pushed it back across the marble. "I don't take charity. Then take strategy." His eyes held hers. "You need safety while you rebuild. Consider it repayment for saving the coat." Her hand hovered over the envelope. Pride said no. Practicality said yes. Survival said now. She slid it back toward him one more time, then pocketed it in a single smooth motion, the key cold against her palm. Outside, rain tapped the window like a clock, counting down to something neither of them had named yet. The apartment smelled like old paper and rainy wood, the kind of scent that made you want to whisper. One room above a bookshop that sold poetry in 3 languages, with a window that overlooked a narrow street where cats ruled and streetlights flickered amber, a bed with clean sheets, a kitchenette, a lamp that cast light like honey. Amara set her suitcase down and exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. Alone, safe, hers, even if it was borrowed. The bouquet arrived the next morning, not roses, not apology flowers, protea, wild, architectural, impossibly complicated, blooms in shades of coral and cream. The card was small, unsigned, except for 2 words in neat ink. For rebuilding. She kept them on the windowsill where the light could find them. 2 days later, Ryu called. "There's a place in Samcheong-dong. They do coffee like ceremony and desserts like poetry. Tomorrow night, if you're interested." Amara pressed the phone to her ear, weighing silence. "Is this a date?" A pause. Then, softer. "Do you want it to be?" She thought about her brother's tuition in Lagos. About Daniel's hands on someone else. About the way Ryu corrected her tamp pressure like he was teaching her to breathe better. "I want to eat," she said, "and I want you to say something true. Deal." The restaurant was invisible unless you knew to look tucked behind a gallery. No sign, just a door and a chef who brewed pour-overs with the focus of a jeweler setting diamonds. They sat at a corner table. The menu was a single card. Ryu ordered for them both without asking, and somehow it didn't feel like control, just fluency. "Your mother's tea house," Amara prompted, breaking a sesame tweel. "Tell me something real." He leaned back, considering her like she was a problem worth solving correctly. "She taught me that precision is respect, that the temperature of water changes what people taste, what they remember. My uncle taught me the other half how to use fear like a tool, how to be alone in a room full of people who need you." "Sounds exhausting," Amara said quietly. "It is." He met her eyes. "Your turn." She told him about Lagos, the compound laughter, her grandmother's red stew, the scholarship that brought her here on a one-way ticket, and a dream that tasted like coffee, about working 3 jobs to send money home, about learning Korean by watching dramas with her mouth full of rice, about the loneliness that came from being excellent in a language that wasn't yours, in a country that loved you for your difference but never let you forget it. "Why? Me?" she asked over citrus sorbet that tasted like a clear sky. "You could have anyone. Why the waitress who ruined your coat?" Ryu's hand moved across the table, palm up. "An offer. Because you said don't move to a man everyone runs from. Because you name things instead of pretending they don't exist. Because you steady your hands even when your life is shaking." Her fingers touched his. Warm, real, no rush, just a question being answered in real time. "I keep my keys," she said softly. "I'm not a secret, and you don't lie to me, even when the truth is ugly." "Never a secret," he said, and it sounded like an oath. Outside, in the cooling dark, a camera shutter clicked. Then another. A figure in a gray jacket cataloging moments Amara locking up alone, walking lit streets, laughing with Mina through Hana Bean's window, asleep on the break room couch after a double shift. On Monday morning, a slim envelope slid under the cafe's door. No return address, just a white crane stamped in, the corner and photographs inside that showed a life being watched. Mina found it during opening prep, the envelope thin as a threat beneath the door. She didn't open it, just held it between 2 fingers like something contaminated, and waited for Amara to clock in. Inside, photographs. Amara locking up alone under amber streetlight. Amara walking home past shuttered shops. Amara laughing with Mina through the window, head thrown back, unguarded. Amara asleep on the break room couch, mouth soft, defenseless. The message was printed in neat Hangul at the bottom. "Mistakes get expensive." A white crane stamped in the corner, delicate and absolute. Mina's hand shook. "We call the police. And tell them what?" Amara's voice came out steadier than she felt. "That someone took pictures from a public street?" The door chimed. Not a customer. Choi Dae-jin, Ryu's second, walked in with the calm of a man who'd seen worse and fixed it quietly. His eyes went to the envelope, then to Amara. "He knows," Dae-jin said simply. "Stay inside today, both of you. I have a shift. You have a life." His tone didn't rise, didn't need to. "Keep it." Ryu didn't call, didn't visit. For 3 days, the city hummed with a frequency only certain people could hear. A white crane warehouse failed a surprise inspection. Structural violations, immediate closure. Import licenses vanished from databases like they'd never existed. Bank accounts froze mid-transaction. Audits materializing out of bureaucratic thin air. Shipments rerouted. Alliances quietly withdrew. Phone calls going unreturned. Meetings canceled with apologies that tasted like fear. By the weekend, the White Crane Syndicate issued a formal apology through back channels, the kind that never made the news but traveled through every shadow in Seoul. The photos were destroyed. The photographer vanished, not dead, just gone. The way people go when they're given a chance and a ticket to somewhere far away. The city added another verse to Ryu's legend. The man who dismantled an empire because someone looked at his woman too long. Amara heard it from customers who didn't know she was the woman in question, their voices low over lattes, half awed, half terrified. Her stomach twisted with something she didn't have a name for. Not quite fear, not quite pride. Something darker, more complicated. After closing, she sat on the counter, legs swinging. The cafe, a cathedral of humming refrigerators and cooling espresso machines. Ryu came through the back door like he still had keys. Maybe he did. You detonated an ecosystem, Amara said quietly, because someone looked at me too long. He stopped 3 steps away. I removed a threat. You rewrote the underworld. I would rewrite the world. No hesitation. No apology. I would remove every piece that tried to touch you. That's what scares me. She met his eyes. Not that you would. That part of me isn't scared enough. That I looked at those photos and my first thought was you'd fix it. That I'm already counting on the monster. He moved closer, slow, deliberate, until he stood between her knees. Tell me to leave, he said, voice low as a prayer. I will. I'll protect you from this, even from me. She reached up, fingers brushing the edge of his jaw. Protect me by telling me the truth when I don't want to hear it. By letting me keep my keys. By remembering I am not a secret or a possession. I'm a person who's choosing you. With my eyes open, on my terms. Never a secret, he said, the words solemn as vows. Your terms. Always. Her phone buzzed. A text from the cafe owner. Your night bloom pop-up is approved. Next Saturday. The whole evening is yours. Amara showed him the screen. Public spotlight. Your world will be watching. Good, Ryu said. Let them. The line stretched down the block by the time doors opened. Night bloom. Amara's dessert and coffee pop-up that tasted like home and here learning to dance together. Zobo syrup, affogato with sesame brittle that snapped like applause. Chin Chin crumb tiramisu. Ethiopian single origin perfumed with yuzu peel, bright and impossible. The cafe glowed warm against the cooling autumn night. Fairy lights strung like promises. Camera flashes outside like urban rain. Food bloggers came. Regulars came. Strangers who'd heard whispers came. The room hummed with the specific energy of something working. Something real being born in real time. Ryu arrived at 8:15 without an entourage. Hands in his pockets. Wearing a dark sweater that made him look almost ordinary. Almost. He stood in line like everyone else behind a couple with a stroller. In front of college students arguing about extraction times, and the cafe went quiet in that way it had the first time. Not fear this time. Curiosity. Recognition. The myth becoming a man. Amara came around the counter when he reached the register, apron dusted with cocoa, a smudge of yuzu zest on her wrist. You're going to make people think we're friends, she murmured. Are we? He asked, mouth almost smiling. Order, customer. Zobo affogato, he said, and whatever you want me to taste when you're too tired to second-guess yourself. He paid, exact change, and then his hand settled on the counter between them. Not a claim, an offer, a question in the shape of an open palm. Outside, phone cameras lifted. Inside, Mina cleared her throat from the espresso machine and whispered just loud enough, If you're going to freeze the cafe again, do it quick. Amara took his hand, in front of everyone, in front of cameras and whispers and the city that loved a good story. Her voice didn't shake. This man, she said clearly, playfully, is a menace to water temperature. Laughter cracked the tension like light-breaking glass. The cafe exhaled, smiled. Then, lower, just for him, she added, and he's mine. Ryu's smile reached his eyes for the first time she'd seen, unguarded and whole. Always, he said. The room didn't shatter. It warmed, settled, accepted. They didn't become safe. Safety was a lie people told themselves. But they became real, visible. A story the city would retell between sips and subway rides. The waitress who told the wolf to hold still, and the wolf who learned to be seen without disappearing. Night Bloom sold out by 10. Amara kept her keys. Ryu kept his promises. And somewhere in Seoul's electric night, the legend grew softer at the edges, traded fear for something almost like hope. Strong female leads every week. Besties like share, subscribe, and drop Night Bloom if you'd have said don't move too. Afro-Korean HQ sees you.